Okay, so I am going to cover some things that are not brand spanking new, but that I want people to kind of still realize are there, or that are new additions that you may or may not understand. One of the first things is you can see on my screen there's this Save Snapshot button. Now I had just closed my farm and reopened it, so it's still black. But after 10 minutes, this will turn red, and it's telling you that it's time to save a snapshot because you've been working on it for kind of a while. The snapshot is saving a backup of your farm. But every time you come into SnapPlus and go out of it, well, every time you go into it, you are automatically creating a backup file that can be retrieved. The nice thing about the snapshot is that's going to save your data as you're going, and if you had a power outage, or we had somebody, their computer crashed and they actually lost data, so it's a good idea to do, especially if you've been working on something for a long time. And then the other thing to know about is every time you see a table, a grid, like this, and you see the word all up in the corner, that means that you can do multi-cell editing, which means that you can select several rows at once. So if you hold the shift key down, you can select them consecutively, and then the control button is going to select them non-consecutively. And this also means that you can sort. One thing that you could do is you can sort by field slope just by clicking on this header. And then you could pick your slopes that you know would fall into this 2.1 to 6% and adjust all of them at once. Now they were already all adjusted, but if you change them. So again, I don't have a gazillion fields, but if you had 100 fields, or hundreds of fields, this will save you a lot of time being able to sort and select many rows at once. Okay. Now, talk about, well, subfarms is pretty intuitive, and they've always been around. The idea with subfarms is that a field can only be in one subfarm, and when you create a new one, it's going to create a drop-down list on your field page to choose from. And the reason we had to do that is because people would type in that subfarm box and they would do grandma and then they would do grandmas. And of course the computer thinks those are two separate subfarms, so this is to try to keep that from happening. But groups, so groups has been around for a little while now, but there's a lot that you can do with it. It's quite powerful once you know how to use it. So let's start by looking at creating a new group. So I think groups will be really, where they really are the most helpful is when you use the rotation wizard. So before we had groups, it used to be that when you were going to use the rotation wizard, you had to manually keep track of your fields. And you could only do one crop, so you could only do corn grain for one run, and then you had to go back in and pick corn grain belt stalks, and then you had to go back in and pick corn silage, and in the meantime you had to be writing down these fields to keep track of what you were doing. Well, now with groups you can pick all of that at once and have your fields pre-selected so that when you get to the rotation wizard screen, you can just pick your group and you don't have to think about it. And then if you ever question which fields you picked, you don't have to look for some piece of paper you scribbled on. You can just come to this screen and look at it. So that's another reason that I do recommend when you name your groups, if you're going to be doing yearly things, that you would put the year first. That way they all are kind of automatically sorted by year. But just for example's sake, to do a very simple one, we could just pick our fields with a low P, and that could be all that we do. And we're going to put the criteria in here so that we can easily see what they are. But this is not tied to a year, so I'm not worried about year right now. This is the list of things that we have to choose from at this moment in time. The list has grown a little bit since the group thing first came out. If you ever have things that you want to query that are not here and that we haven't thought of, then just let us know and we can probably pretty easily add it. So we want to find fields that have a soil test p-value of less than 20. I don't want it to be equal to 20. I want it to be below. And I want to include this. And we have to pick a crop year because of our soil test. So let's pick that. We're going to search. This farm has a lot of fields that are very low. So now if we wanted to find, well, let's do our fields that are, we'll make a new group. We want our fields that are low P, let's make it a little bit lower, and corn. And we're going to do this for 2015. So soil test P is going to be less than 15, so we're going to include that one. And now we want to pick our crop. So crop is equal to, and I'm picking both of my corns. So see, this is where it's awesome because you can pick multiple crop types at once. And it still has my year 2015, it should still have my year 2015 selected. Let's just double check. Okay, then we're going to run our search, and these are our fields. Now, you'll notice there's this box here, this search selected fields. So while we only have 2 up here for criteria, you can actually do many, many searches on your groups and that are selected. So of these selected fields, we'll search those, and we want to find, let's find where the soil test pH is low. Less than 6. And now this one I don't want to include because we've already done that. Oh, none came up. Darn it. Okay, so if you look down here, in case you ever want to see in the future as you bounce around from group to group, you can look down here and see what your logic was that went into the fields that are selected. And of course, you can always manually move them in and out. So let's look at, we can also choose our subfarm. So I did have a subfarm set up on the previous page. So we could look for, we want to look at our subfarms. Well, let's deselect all these, make a new group, sorry. All right, let's do 2015, fertilizer only, under -50 N. All right, so we want to look at our subfarms. We only have the one subfarm, fertilizer only. So those would be fields that are far away that we know are never going to get manure. And of those, let's pick the ones that are corn fields, 2015. And we're going to do a search, corn. Okay, so we have R1 and R2. So then of those selected fields, we want to find the ones that have a fertilizer that their adjusted fertilizer recommendation is less than -50. So that means that we have to meet nitrogen. Does that make sense? So we are not meeting our recommendation. We're more than 50 pounds short of it. This one we don't want to include. And search, and they're both in there. When I was playing with this before, it worked every single time, and now that I'm in front of you guys, it's not working right. Okay, so then one of the other ways that you can use groups is to update your crop year with what actually happened. So let's say that all of our crop yields were lower than expected. So our corn grain was planned to yield 190 to 210, but bad things happened, and they all actually came in at 150 to 170. So we're going to pick our 2014 corn grain actual yield is 151 plus. So first, we're going to query the fields that were corn grain. So our crop is equal to, and I should point out this exclamation point with the equal sign means that it's all of those, it's everything except the one that you picked. So if we picked this right now, and we went in here and we picked corn, it would be looking for all these fields. So it's everything except the one that you selected. So we want it to be equal to our 2014, because we're updating what actually happened. So we're picking 2014, and we want corn grain. And we're going to search. All right, so all these fields were corn grain in 2014. Now, to update this, I would tell you to go to the rotation wizard, and we are going to change our cropping data, and we're looking at 2014, and we want to show all of our subfarms, but we only want our 2014 corn grain that was actually 150. And we're going to arrow all of them over. So again, you could pre-select, or you could manually select ones that you do or do not want. But we already know we want all of those, so we're going to select them all. And we know that our crop was corn grain, and we're going to change all of our yields to 151 to 170 and apply and exit. And now if we look at one of those fields, oh, subfarm is chosen, so show all fields. So now if we look at one of those fields in 2014, oops, no, here, it changed them from the 170, 190 to the 151, 170. So with to update changes to crops, yields, or tillages, I think the fastest way to do it is to set up your groups and then use the change button in the rotation wizard. For changes to applications, to update manure and fertilizer, or to plan manure and fertilizer out, I don't know that groups is going to be your best tool, although it all depends on how you like to look at things and how you prefer to do it. But I'm just trying to show you all the different ways that might exist. Okay, so the other thing that we can do is we can use groups to help us plan our manure applications. So no, if we've already applied all the manure to the fields, and now we know we need to go find what fields need even more. So let's see, I already started setting this up. So 2015, so we're planning out our applications. We applied what we know we're going to apply. We applied manure where we know we're going to apply it. But now we need to find out where else we're short. So we can come in here and do an over-under. I'm going to do it on all the fields. So let's say we're looking for any fields that are less than -50, and I'm looking at 2015. So we have a long list of them. And now we can either go use the rotation wizard and apply fertilizer to meet the needs, or we can use our fertilizer blend calculator to apply to those fields, which we're going to go through. So now, just one other quick thing with groups. So if sometimes the logic can get kind of confusing, and if you ever want to double check that you are you're thinking about it correctly and that the computer is thinking about it correctly, one thing you can do is to go run your report. So in this case, you could run your sorted by crop report to verify that those fields are actually less than -50, because it's kind of confusing to think about a less than negative number. So like for instance, G2 in oh look, did I do 2015? I did. Okay, let's clear this. Arrow these back. And let's do over under -50. I want to include this one, and I only want 14. Oh no, I wanted 15, right? Oh, I'm confusing myself now. Sorry, guys. Accept, search. Okay, so reports, G1. So if we look at how much we're over under adjusted recs, we're at a negative 176. G4 is negative 118. So I would say that we are thinking about it logically. Now to this, we could add looking for our cornfields. But my point is that it's pretty powerful how many different ways that you can search for things in here, and then set those up as groups that you can use to apply manures and fertilizers. Okay, so are there any questions about using groups? All right, so now the other thing, the one that's kind of the really big addition to this newer version is the import-export button. And where this is really, where I think it's going to be the most useful are the daily log things. If you're sharing fields or farms with other farms, planners, then there are some other things that you can export. For example, you can export field data. You can export the entire farm. And you can import field data. And so if you're sharing with another person, you would be able to pull their information in without having to key it all in manually. But first I want to look at exporting your planned applications. So up here is import, down here is export. So if we export our planned applications, we are going to, I'm just going to let it go to the default folder. It's going to default to C SnapPlus 2 export. I'm in a beta version because there were a few bugs with things, but I think the new release is coming out later today or tomorrow. And it's just called this planned applications with a timestamp, and we're going to say accept. And I want it to go to the file. So I want it to go to that Excel file. You could skip this part and just have it go right to the daily log screen in SnapPlus. Should I go there so you can see it? I'm going to delete all in 2014. All right, so I want to export planned applications to Excel. Let's call this webinar. And I want the manure. And I want it for crop year 2014. Go to the next screen. I also want it for all of my fields. You could choose Subfarm. These spreader defaults you can ignore for the most part. This is just if you have, it can't run if there are any holes or it's empty anywhere. So this is the values you're telling it to plug in if there's a null value. Okay, and we're going to export that. It doesn't automatically open up, so you do have to go grab it. And I believe I have that folder open, so let's refresh. See, SnapPlus 2 beta. Okay, so here are all the applications that were in the 2014 crop year. It's not a ton, but I know some of you have many, many, many more. But it's just to show you the general concept. So now this is your plan. So you could print this out and give it to whomever needs it. You will notice that it looks very similar to the DNR 1323. What is it? The DNR form that's required for CAFOs. And that was the whole idea of this. That is actually the whole reason that it was even put in here, was so that you guys didn't have to do any duplicative entry for the CAFOs to meet the requirements. Form 3200-123. Okay. So you have your soil conditions, your weather during your application, and any notes. So then you can print this out, give it to whoever needs it. They can do their record keeping on it. And then what you'll do is we're going to now save it as in actual. So we're going to go to C SnapPlus beta, import, and actual manure apps webinar. Okay, so it's been 6 months or it's been a year. They've done all of their applications and now they're giving you their data of what they really did, or maybe they have it all written down on maps or on different pieces of paper. This would be the best place to update it because in my mind it's much easier to work in an Excel spreadsheet than it is to work in the rotation wizard or the cropping screen, because you can see all of your applications at one time. The other thing you can do to speed up data entry is you could come and put filters so that you could sort either by the pit type, or you could sort by the spreader volume, anything really, or by field. And then you can come in here and you can edit. Now the other reason that I think it behooves you to use your planned form to make your updated form is because your manure sources are going to match. So you need your field names to match. Same with when we import soil tests. We need field names to match, and we need manure sources to match. And if you just use this form, then that will happen. So we could come in here and let's say that, now again I'm being very generic, but let's say that all of our 22-ton rates actually were 10, and let's say that all of our 2000s were actually 100,000, 10,000. So now we might have some over applications, but it's just for demonstration purposes. Okay, so we've made some changes. And now we're going to save. We updated all of our fields. We're going to save them. And we can close this. Minimize this. And now we're in our 2014 crop year, and we're going to import our daily log file. Select file to import. Actual manure apps 2014. Now, the same with soil test import. You can go in here and you can edit, and those edits will save to your Excel file, if you click here. But we already did all of that, so we're just going to send it to the daily log file. Now, the computer doesn't know when your crop year is starting and ending, so it is going to ask you some of these things, and we're going to say yes. This one and the next one are wrong. We're going to fix those. Okay, so here we have all of our actual applications that occurred. We updated them with what actually happened. And now we can send them to the cropping screen. You can still edit in this screen if you want to. You can add them to this screen one at a time if you want to do that also. If you get a nutrient source mismatch, it will be in this drop-down. Your actuals will be here, and then your mismatches will be below. And you'll be able to just pick your real sources. So, so for instance, if you knew that the total number of tons that were applied to this field, you can enter your total tons there. No, 20. No, it's acres. So let's say 350. So then it does the math for you and puts your rate in there. So you can still edit here. Okay, once you're happy with it, then you're going to send it to applications. And this is going to replace any planned applications that you have in there now that have the same season, so obviously the same field, the same crop year, okay? But then the season and source have to also match in order for it to delete them. So now it's telling me that 20 log entries were added to our nutrient application screen. So let's go check one. So we have field G2 has 2 applications that should be added. So we go to G2. It's not responding. So here we have G2, and now when you pull applications in from the daily log, SnapPlus on the cropping screen here thinks that these are actuals, and it bolds and italicizes them so that you know that these came from the daily log screen and that you shouldn't be deleting them or doing anything to them. And you can delete it, but you can't click in here and edit it. Okay. Once you have your daily log all put into your screen here, you can run the DNR daily log report. So we go to reports, and we go DNR daily log, and we were in 2014. And you know that these are all supposed to be filled in. And then I see these are field names are missing. It's the same field name as one above it, but that's a bug that'll get fixed. But then these should be able to be turned in as your end of the year form. Okay, now we can also do the same thing with the fertilizer. So we can go to Import Export, and we're going to export planned applications, and we're exporting our fertilizer. I'm telling it to save it in that same export file, but obviously you can save it wherever you want. We're going to say accept. And fertilizers, and again I want 2014 because I'm updating. I want all my fields, and export. So now here are all of my fertilizer applications for 2014. Now again, we can do the same thing where we could filter it or sort it somehow so that we can more easily update things. So if you knew that all of your 28% didn't get applied, actually that's a problem. It turns out that right now you can't do zeros. I think that we should add that and that you should be able to, but right now at this moment in time, 0 is considered a null entry, and you'd have to put at least a 1. But again, you come in and you update everything that actually happened, and because it's an Excel spreadsheet, you can drag, you can cut, you can more easily manipulate the data, in my opinion. Then once you're done with fixing your plan, we're going to do a save as and put it into our import folder, and this will be our actual our 2014 actual applications. Okay, and we close, and we are going to import our daily log file. Select our file to import. So we are going to our SnapPlus 2 2014. And here they all are. Again, you can edit in here if you want to, but that was probably all done on the Excel spreadsheet. And then we're going to send it to the SnapPlus daily log screen. So here's all of our applications. At this point, they are only in this screen and they aren't connected to anything. So we have to tell it, once we're happy with them, to send to, and I do want to replace any planned applications that I have. And they were all added. So we can go check our G1. Well, G2 has applications. We'll go check G2. It's too bad it's not responding. It wasn't ever doing this before you guys were watching. All right, so we're in G2. We can go to our 2014. So now our 2014 G2 has been updated with all the actual manures and all the actual fertilizers. And all the planned ones were deleted. Okay, so that's about all I was going to cover, I think, with the daily log stuff, and I don't know if I'm going way too slow or way too fast. But after you've added them, I should say this too. So we deleted that one application that was in, we deleted that manure application in field G2. Because remember, you can't edit the rate, but you can delete them. So then it unchecked it because it's no longer in our cropping screen. So now if we wanted to, if we hit send to applications again, all these ones that are checked would not be sent. It would just be the ones that are not checked that would go. And that's what this means down here. So if we told it to send all, it would send all of them again, which I don't know why you'd want to do, but to do the unchecked only. The option if you're using drag hoses is that you set your spreader volume. Oh, is it going to let me? Oh, maybe because it's added. Here. Yeah. All right. So we're going to set our spreader volume to 1, and then either number of loads or spreader rate you can put as this is a solid. How are you going to? Well, okay. Then you can set your spreader rate as the amount that went on the field. So let's do one that's a liquid. Okay, so spreader volume would be 1, and then you can either do rate per acre, so maybe at 6,547, or you can choose up here, you can change it to loads, and you can change that as your total amount that went on the field. Okay, hopefully that all makes a lot of sense. Any questions about daily log? All right, then we're going to go to the tool menu. So in the tools menu, we have the Manure Allocator. The Manure Allocator, I think, is really going to save some people a tremendous amount of time. So let's look. I believe I have, let's do 2015, and I want to. So what the Manure Allocator is doing is it's going to apply the manure for you. It's going to apply it until the UW rec needs are met, but it doesn't keep applying until the manure is gone. So the Manure Allocator and then the Fertilizer Allocator, which I'll show you in a minute, these are both very new, and they're very first rough cut. So, so there is some tweaking. There are things that definitely need to be fixed with them that I'll show you in a second. But even as they are right now, they're still pretty useful, especially the manure one. So you come in here and you either you can manually pick which fields you want to apply manure to, or you can look at, and this would be another place to use groups, or you can look at how your over under UW recs currently are looking. So if you click on this all button, this box is showing you, here's our acres. These are the nutrient, where we're at with our balance. So this is saying that we're negative 176 under our UW recommendation. If you see a plus sign, that means that we are over the UW recs already. So N, we're very short. P, we've met. K, we've met. The crop on this field is corn, and it's field G5. So you can pick which fields you want. You could group them. You could, kind of manually group them here by your needs, or you can query on the group page by their needs. So let's just pick all the ones that are over 100 negative, if that is making sense to you. Okay, so on all those fields, these are my minimum and average adjusted recommendations. I want to get rid of my pit manure. And the volume one, that one you can kind of ignore. You'll notice that it's white. That one is simply for calculating the number of loads that would be going on the field, but you aren't really concerned about that at this point. Minimum rate we'll just leave at 2,000. Maximum, let's say, is 14,000. And, oh, so if you have total gallons available, if you have manure that you haven't allocated yet that year, it will pop up here. So let's see, so here, so our calf manure, we have not spread it all in 2015. So if our minimum rate, let's say, is 10 and our maximum rate is 20, then it's automatically going to make these applications for you that you see down here. Okay, so the place it gets kind of confusing is if you start playing with this, you'll see it doesn't make sense like you want, like I want it to make sense in my head. And so this is where I think we need to have a few more options for setting our priorities, which fields are going to take priority, and how much manure do we want it to apply? Do we want it to apply to meet the N recommendations of the field? So then we can go to next. And so these are the applications that it's going to automatically make for you. And we can send to applications, and then we'll go check out 2015 G1. So can you see how that's going to save people just a ton of time? I think that's an awesome new tool. Especially when you're first setting your farm up for the first time and have all those future years to apply manure to, you can just use the Manure Allocator tool. You could go to the group page and you could make groups, you can make groups based on your manure types and then go into the Manure Allocator. That might be the best way to do it. So if we look at cropping, now I don't remember. Did I say G2? No, G1. So here's our 10 tons of calf manure that needed to get applied. And now if you look up here, our calf manure, we have 29 ton that are still left. So the next field in its priority list must have needed more than 29 tons because it didn't put it out, which is the part that doesn't make a lot of logical sense to me. So we just need to work on the logic. And if you guys use this and play with it at all and can figure out a way that makes the most sense, then please let us know. All right, so now 2016, I know that I don't have any manure or fertilizer out in that year. And I want to pick my, let's see, all right, now I'm going to go back and I'm going to choose a manure-only subfarm. So because we have our fertilizer-only one, when I go to make a manure-only one, those fields are no longer available for me to select because each one can only be in one subfarm. Now we're going to go to Tools, Manure Allocator. Let's go to 2016, and I want to choose my manure-only fields. And you can see they all have pretty big recommendations. No, subfarms on all of them. No, it's not selecting them. I gotta pick them all. Uh-oh, now I broke it. Okay, close. Tools, Manure Allocator, next. Subfarm, manure only. And let's select all and hit OK. Go next. Here we go. So now let's pick our liquid manure. And let's say that we have 1.5 million gallons available to spread. And I'm going to say that my maximum application rate is 20,000 gallons per acre. And it's going to apply 1.4 million gallons for me. So it can do it that way, or if you wanted to spread it out more, you could have your maximum application be 8,000, and then you're spreading it out over more fields, but at less of a rate. Okay, so then we can send to applications, and look at that. we're done with our manure allocating for that year. Well, we're not, but you know it's very quick. All right, so that's the manure allocator. So let me know if you have any questions about that. The next thing we'll look at is the one that is a little bit less intuitive and might have a few more kinks. That's a bug. Have a few more kinks to work out. So the fertilizer blend calculator. Now with this one, it's the same as the manure allocator, but it's going to blend together any of the fertilizers that you pick. And see, this is where I think we need to tweak it to make it a little bit better so that you could apply one fertilizer at a time with a maximum rate for that fertilizer. But I'll show you what it does. Before you use this, you should put all your manure out and you should put your starter fertilizer out because it's going to maximize, it's going to apply fertilizer until it hits UW recommendations. And if you include a starter fertilizer, it makes a starter as part of the blend and you can't put a maximum application rate on it yet. So it's just going to max out and put these huge quantities of starter fertilizer on. So that's why you should go use a rotation wizard and put your starter fertilizer out over all of your cornfields. And you could set up groups to pick all your cornfields for it. And then come into here. So that's what this little screen here is saying, is with the way this is currently set up to work, you kind of have to do a little bit of prep work beforehand. So let's look at 2016. And we are going to use, let's look at our fertilizer only. And so now this is the same screen, type of screen as before, but now I really do want to kind of group them by need. And one thing we could do is we could pick just those fields that need nitrogen or just those fields that need potassium first to kind of maximize some of those applications and then come back and pick ones where it's really going to blend them. So I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so now we come into here, and it's going to ask you if you want to blend using the minimum needs. So this is the lowest need of all those fields that we just selected. We had ones that had a 0 phosphorus and a 0 potassium rec, but if we choose to calculate based on averages, we might be over applying phosphorus now. So that's just something to be careful, and that's another reason to maybe not pick these zeros at this stage of the game. So now we can pick what fertilizer we want to be our P source. So we'll pick DAP, and then we want to pick the one that's going to be our potassium source, and then our nitrogen source. So now we can set our minimum rate and then our incremental rate, but like I said, these rates should really be by fertilizer. So then here's all the rates it's going to make, or all the applications it's going to make for us. You can see on field G1, it's blending them together to get to the rate to meet this need right here. And if you look down here, it's telling you how to mix them. So that's why I think at this point, probably the best way to use this fertilizer allocator is to look at your needs. It seems to get caught up when I go backwards like that. Okay, let's close and start over. So here, and we're going to, oh, I want 2016. So if we just pick ones that are very similar, it's going to work a little bit better right now. So now our minimum, average, maximum are all the same, so it doesn't matter what we would choose up here. You could pick, if you only wanted it to do DAP, you could pick that, and this is how it's going to apply it. Or you could choose for it to only do, a nitrogen, and that's what it's going to apply. And again, it's applying until it hits the maximum, until it gets to UWREX, and then it's going to stop. And it's going to be based on this minimum rate and incremental rate with no maximum. So that's why you're going to get 400 pounds of urea per acre, because it's going until it can't go anymore at this setting. So does this make sense to people? Kind of. Like I said, you can see the potential is here, and it's going to get much better. And then you can have your blend source. You can have it make this blend it's trying to do, and it would put it in your nutrient screen under your fertilizers for you. And this happens, but it applied it. But now it might be stuck. Oh, it worked before. Okay, so if we, so we can go to the cropping screen, although I didn't look at one of the fields. 2016, this must be one of them. So here's the 3 fertilizers that it applied, and here's the rates. It's the same rate on all the fields that it put this fertilizer on, because it's looking at this as a blend, and if we would have told it to put that as a blend in our nutrient sources, that's the way that you would see it. And if you look, so then if you look here, it exactly maxed out your fertilizer needs, or bumped right up to UWREX. So again, it's really awesome, and think of the time saving, especially with planning out your farm for the first time. But you got to think about the fertilizer one a little bit harder than you have to think about the manure one. And the other thing that you can do as you're playing with real farms and trying to understand how it works and how to manipulate it, is you could just make a copy of your SnapPlus farm, and you could save it as a as a test version, or as my fertilizer test farm, and you could just go in there and play until you kind of get it figured out to be where you want it to be, and then come into your actual farm and then actually apply it. All right, so the tools menu. Some other things that are in here are the is the merging fields button. So merging fields, if we put the field screen on, and I want to see all my fields. Sorry. Merging fields is going to take 2 of your fields and put them together, and it will make the 2 that you merged, make those inactive, and put them all up here in one with the acres joined together. The only thing to be careful with merging is that you want to check that your soil tests are all the same date. Otherwise, if you have some soil tests that are different dates, they're going to get dropped out. And I think just the most recent ones are going to come through, so you just want to adjust your dates so that they all match. And then the other thing that will save time is the rotation editor. So we come in Tools, Rotation Editor, we can create a rotation. So, we all have, let's see, let's do a, well, what should we do? Let's do corn, soybean, make something new. Soybeans. We'll set our yield goals. Corn silage, soybeans. Okay, we'll just leave our tillage. I don't care about that. And then, of course, we can put, if we know we are always going to be using a certain fertilizer, that can go in here. And now what we can do is, once we build a rotation, is we can actually share that rotation. So what you're doing by sharing it is you are saving it onto your computer so that you can pull it into other farms. So if you know all these farms are going to be just doing a corn bean rotation, which, I mean, they're easy to build, But if you have longer rotations, you can just pull them in and then you don't have to build them every single time you go into a new farm, because they'll be there. So they'll be under the import-export data rotations. So if you remember, when we were looking at this, we can import rotations. So I can select my rotation to import. So this was another one that I had shared with my computer before. And this is the one we made just now. Now, because we put that fertilizer in there, it wants to know what fertilizer this farm wants to use if we don't have the same exact match. And so we would pick that one, and we would tell it to import, but we made it in this farm, so obviously it's already there. But that, you know, it's not huge time saving, but it's a whole bunch of little things. And the other thing that you can do to share between your SnapPlus farms is you can go to, let's see, there's a way to get to it in the menus, but I know of it here. So if you go to the nutrient page and you go to edit shared fertilizers, you can add a new fertilizer. So if you have a certain blend that you always use on all your farms, you can add it in here. You can put it in here, and then it will always be in your list of fertilizers to choose from, if that makes sense. So if I went and opened up another Plus farm right now, it would be there for me to pick when I go to add a fertilizer. It would be in this list, like that. Okay. So rotation editor, fertilizer sharing, fertilizer blending, view menu. So, oh, this is wonderful. Okay, on the cropping page, oh, this is my merge field. So let's go here. So in here, when you click on your, your fertilizer, manure, and you get the nutrient application planner up, you can scroll now between fields. So you can leave the nutrient application screen open, and it will stay in whatever crop year you are in, and it will go from field to field. And this is really amazing. I'm so happy they added this. Once you start using it, you're going to wonder why we didn't have it a long time ago. All right, and then fertilizer list we did. View menu, fertilizer list. We also have the nutrient application by season. This is another screen that you can leave open. So if you know that, you need to get half out in the fall and half out in the spring, as you're making your applications, you can watch this and you can refresh it and make sure that things are getting done by season as they need to. The other thing that's new, but that actually has a few little problems with it at this moment in time, is the manure analysis averaging tool. Okay, so for those big farms that have to keep track of their manure analysis, you can bring them into here. The part that is not exactly right is in the help menu, we have the template for the manure analysis that you can open up, but it's outdated, and so if you opened this and tried to use it, it would not import for you. So they're going to update that with the new one with our next release. But in the meantime, there is a sample manure analysis that comes with the SnapPlus download, same way that you get the sample soil test report and all those other sample reports. So you could just use this one and overwrite it with your actual data and then resave it. And then what you're going to do, once you have your manure sample analysis in that Excel table, and as far as I know, the Excel table is the only way to pull it in right now. I don't think there's any other ways, like a text file, like you can with the soil test. Then you're going to come to the Manure Analysis tab, and you're going to say that you want to import your manure analysis, and you're going to go get it. So I'm in my import folder, and I want my sample farm manure analysis that works. And it's telling me that I have invalid names, which is okay because I can come change them. So here's the ones that are not in my nutrient sources tab. So I'm going to pick the one that I know it actually is. Pit manures are going to change to pit, and look at, since this says all up in the corner, I can select multiple rows at one time. So let's select all those, and I'm going to come up to the header and I'm going to right click, and I'm going to change all of them to be pit all at once. And this one will change to that also. Okay, import to SnapPlus. And so here are our manure analyses. Now, these are not exactly a straight average at this moment in time. What it's doing is it is throwing out any that are more than 2 standard deviations from the average. And as far as I know, Joe Baton and Joe at SnapPlus are working together to make sure that it's working the way DNR wants it to work. Then what will happen is once you save selected, it is going to put these averages over on your nutrient sources page. So if our pit one was, 18 and 22, we can come look here. We have 18 and 22. Okay. The other thing I have found that people, farmers in particular, really like to know about are the money tabs. So, we've always had these values over here that you can enter, but if you know your cost per ton of your fertilizers that we've always had here, they come in here now, and you can actually see what the breakdown is for dollars per pound of the different nutrients. And then you can kind of do some compare and contrasting. Okay. And then what else is there? So the reports page, this has always been there, and I'm not going to do it or show you how to do all the different tables, but there's always been the data dump, and one of the new things in the data dump is this precision recommendation. You can do all of your crop data if you want to and make pretty charts and graphs and play with it. But this precision recommendations one is there now. And this one is going to show you, all right, never mind that top part, is going to show you your, can I get, no, I can't get to the header display. Anyway, it's your crop demand and then your lime, and it's all by individual soil test. So, here's all your recommendations for G4 for each soil test sample point. And then here's a spot that you can put your coordinates, latitude and longitude. Okay. We talked about the DNR daily log, and then there's also the annual spreading report. So this is the same thing where, again, we're trying to limit the amount of duplication that you have to do and make things be as seamless as possible. This is very similar to the daily log report. There's just a little more data in it. The other thing to mention then, I'm on my miscellaneous category now, is that all of the narrative boxes are rich text. So if you right click in here, you can copy, paste, delete. You can also paste pictures into these. So if DNR wants you to be putting pictures of concentrated flow channels or something in, you could do it in here. Although the pictures very quickly get grainy if you try to resize them. So it's not perfect, but there still is potential. And one question that I've gotten is when people import soil tests, we used to be able to have a drop down of the field names inside the cell. Okay, well that hasn't gone away. What you have to do now though is right click on the header. So I right clicked and I get this box, and now here are my actual field names. and then you can select the one that it's really supposed to be. And again, you can see that there's this all up in the corner, so that means that you can select multiple rows at once. So if you know 10 and 11 were all this merged field, and that's the one that those two should be, then it will do it for you. Okay, the other thing to mention is the help menus are now on every screen, and when you click it, it's going to take you right to that point in the help menu, and same as if you hit F1. The other thing to tell you about then is if I go to help contents, and if we look at the what's new in the current version, this first page that it opens up on, if you are having trouble or want to make sure that you're picking the most exact tillage that you should, there is the stir table is in here now. This link is broken, but it's just on the SnapPlus web page. So if you come to the SnapPlus page, it'll take you to the stir table. So matching SnapPlus tillages, because I know tillages are always a concern. So if you want to make sure you're getting the best one possible, you can look in here. And then the other thing I want to tell you about on this website are the YouTube videos, because as you know, it's way easier to learn how to use software if you can watch somebody doing it versus trying to troubleshoot or talk to somebody on the phone how to do something. And so as we get more advanced, or as these new tools, the Manure Allocator and Fertilizer Allocator, as they mature a little bit more, and we're pretty happy and they're pretty stable, I'm sure that we'll put some YouTube videos up here on how to use it, so you should keep an eye on this page. Otherwise, that's about all I think I had to go through. I'm going to scroll through my list of things I wanted to be sure to talk about. But in the meantime, are there any questions, or does anybody else have any tips or tricks of how you do things faster or easier? Oh, Christina, do you have a comment for me?
Yep, there was a comment that somebody had. Yep, can you see that?
I can. Yeah, so that could be true. Let's go look. So we combine G1 and G2, which are inactive now. Let's sort by field name. All right, so we have a C and an F. And for the critical soil, it picked the F. So I think that was done correctly, right? I don't think I changed that. That looks right to me.
Another question
any other questions?
One other question somebody asked earlier is in the in-person trainings, will CCA credits be available?
Yeah, I will do that. And here's the list of those trainings again. So the morning is going to be working with SnapPlus, and then the afternoon is going to be reviewing a nutrient management plan. And I will get these, the room numbers and the addresses of where they're going to be on our SnapPlus website. On the, should I show you where that is? So on the SnapPlus, we have training opportunities. So you can go check here, or just send me an email, and I will do that. If you signed up on the forms that were at the DNR CAFO workshop, if you put your email address on there, I'll email you, because I think I got one kind of close to where most people wanted one. So I'll make sure to email you with the details of where it is. The interactive maps, one thing I did want to mention with this real quick is that we do have this legend here now for what to do in each of the categories. We had one for the old one that would have worked fine, but this is new and updated. And one thing that I know not everybody knows about, but that I think is kind of a cool thing, because our air photos are so old, there is a way to see the Google images, which are much newer. We are going to be updating the maps, the air photo very soon, but even then it's not as recent as YouTube or as Google Images. And while we wait for this to load, the recording of this, or if we do another one, will be on our Wisconsin DATCP YouTube page if you wanted to go back and watch me fumble through things. So if we go here, and I'm just going to punch in a township range section. If anybody had questions about the maps, we could talk about that too quick. So now, if we look at the air photo, if we look at the color one, it's kind of outdated. So if we open Google Street View here, then what we can do is we can pull our tabs apart. Uh-oh, now it's stuck. It won't let me do anything. That's not good. All right, well anyway, Tanya has a question. So show me again how to select a known field name in the import soil test screen. Ah, yes. Okay, so import soil test. I'm just going to grab the sample farm soil test import. So it's saying that we have field mismatches when you see this pop up. So what you do is you highlight the field that is not correct, and then you go up here and you right-click with your mouse on the field name header, and then you can see the list of drop-downs. I did talk to the SnapPlus guys about this because it's kind of hiding and not everybody knows that it's there. And you saw it on the screen before where it listed the sources that were in Snap and then it had the invalid names below it. And they did say that it was possible to set this up that way, and I think it's on their list of things to do now. So hopefully it'll go back kind of more to the way that it used to be, but in the meantime you can click up here and change them here. The problem is that they're not, other than the pop-up box that you get when you first come in, they're not highlighted or anything to show you that it's not matching. Let's see. So does anybody else want to see anything again or see something for the first time? I'm going to open, let's go to a different SnapPlus file because I'm going to show you that the rotation is there. So if I go to, well, and you know you can access the rotation wizard from the tool button up here too. So if I say I want to add crop and application data, then I can edit rotations, share. Oh wait, I'm sorry. I'm thinking about this wrong. I have to import it. So I have to import my rotation. I'm going to pick it, fix my manure, my fertilizer that doesn't match, and import to SnapPlus. And then close. And now, when we go to our rotation wizard, now it's there. So if you have this all set up, then it is still faster than coming in and doing it one at a time. And then the other thing I was going to look at with you is the fertilizer. So if I go to my nutrient screen, except I don't remember what it was now. What fertilizer did I add before? This one I added a 10-10-10. There it is. Okay, so now that's available on all my farms, and you don't have to import it like we had to do with the rotation. It's just in there. Okay, so I don't know. I think that's about all I have.
Thank you, Stephanie. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. If you have more questions about SnapPlus, contact Stephanie Schneider at wisconsin.gov. Thanks.